Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in again. We are back with another quick install video on my 2023 Frontier Pro-4x here. If you're new to the channel, it's got a bunch of stuff done to it. Feel free to go back and check out those videos. And if you like what you see, consider subscribing. But for today's video, what we're doing are installing these. This is sent out to us from a company called TIMBREN. So big shout out to these guys. They sent us out their active off-road bump stops. You can see they got on the side of the box. You can read everything there if you want to. Just basically tells you it's superior to what's on the truck, and that's what we're going for. Plus, with the lift, they're just slightly bigger. So what we got is two of the actual bump stops themselves. This is what they look like. They got a little steel grommet in the bottom, and if you look on the inside, it's got a washer. So between those two, when you tighten this down, you don't have to worry about the bolt compressing the actual rubber and just going through the rubber instead of tightening it into place. And then what else you get is a bolt, brand new bolt for each one. It's a 13 mil. You get a little cap. What these are for, I'll show you in a sec, is basically for when these things are compressing. This will help it keep its shape. And then you get the top plate. So basically how you build these things is, of course, that'll be the top. On my truck anyway, it bolts up to the top. They make different versions of these, different brackets and stuff for every vehicle. So depending how yours goes on, you could have it on your actual leaf springs, where mine is bolted up to the frame. So basically how this is going to go is this will sit up like that. You'll get your little cap on here like so. Then this plate on top here just for the strength, so you can torque it down. And then of course the bolt will go inside through there, and this will all sit on the truck like that. Nice thing about this is because it's up and down, you don't have to worry about this thing, if it was that way, collecting water. It won't collect anything in there. It won't freeze if you're in a cold climate, anything like that. Everything's going to drip out. It's all maintenance free. Put it on there and it's good to go. It'll do its thing. And now, like I mentioned, this is super easy to install. You can literally do this in your driveway in about 2 minutes. You don't even have to jack up the truck. All you need is a small extension, a 13 millimeter socket, shallow socket. A deep one won't work. I'll show you why in a second. And then of course a ratchet. And one other thing I recommend, get a little bit of blue Loctite. Put it on the new bolts when you put it in there. You don't have to torque these things crazy. I believe it was only like 35 foot-pounds or something like that. So basically hand tight. Put a little thread lock or a blue thread locker on there, just so when it's tight, of course, if we're going off-road, this thing is jumbling around, hitting the bumps, hitting all the gravel roads and all that stuff. You don't want these things walking themselves off. Not only will you lose it, but then you have no bump stop under there anymore. So just to save yourself the headache, a little bit of blue Loctite and you won't have to worry about it. Alright, so hopefully you can't hear the machine idling. They're doing a bunch of work outside. But basically what these things are made to do, and it's a progressive bump stop. So you can see it's got not only the little V cut out here, but it's kind of like an egg shape in a way. So when you're driving, and this thing, of course I can't do it by hand, but when it's compressing, not only will it compress here and this kind of bulges out that way, but it also compresses up and down and it'll fill this little void here. So instead of going over something and when you hit it, if it's a solid piece of rubber, you just get that thump, you're going to jumble and break your back in the truck. Where when this hits, it's going to start off soft, and as it goes more and more compressed, it gets stiffer, but it does it in a slight or a progressive way. So instead of just hitting it and having either super soft and you'll be like a trampoline, or super hard and it'll be like a rock, this is kind of in between. It's going to hit, start off soft so you don't get that big jolt, and then as the pressure comes down on it, it's going to compress and contain the bump, so work as a bump stop and not send the shock into your back while you're trying to drive. And again, when it releases, same thing. It's going to release more, obviously, when the pressure's built up, and as it comes down, it's going to just drop off and kind of be like it's not even there. So it'll be a little smoother ride when you're out there. For me, I'm getting the off-road ones because we off-road the truck. If you tow something, they also make a different version, or you can also get these. It'll almost do the same thing. And basically it's just like a secondary shock in a way. It's going to take up some of the weight and it's going to let you bounce instead of having the truck jump and jolt all around. This is going to kind of make like you're riding on airbags in a way, but for a fraction of the price. All right, and now before we get them on the actual truck, I'll just give you a side-by-side. I took one side off. You can see height-wise, it's probably about an inch. I know this is kind of balancing. It's got the bolt on the bottom, but about an inch, maybe a little less, more in the height department. And then to get these off, if you look inside, similar to as we're going to be putting on these other ones, you have the little bolt inside. You just turn it. They are not on there tight at all. So again, when you tighten up these ones, you don't have to go Hulk on it. You just got to get it tight enough. And especially if you put the blue Loctite on there, you'll have no issues with it coming off. All right, so you don't actually have to take the wheel off the truck, but I figured for video purposes, it's way easier to see this way than crawling under the truck. So I just jacked it up by the rear diff, took the wheel off, and right here in front of you is your old bump stop. So again, a 13 mil, just feed it up in there, find the bolt, you'll feel it hook. And again, you can see one hand, these things are not tight. So when you put them back on, you don't have to go crazy putting it back on there. You can see right there, it's just threaded in. But when you turn, you can see the bolt is actually not connected. So unfortunately, you gotta go all the way out with the ratchet. And then just like that, your old one's out and we can move on and put the new one in. All right, so now I know some people will ask, because on this truck, right to the backside, you actually have a little secondary bump stop here. If you want to take it off, it's just a couple bolts on each side to come right off. That's up to you. I'm not going to bother, because if you look here, you go directly under this thing. On my leaf springs, there's no marks. So it's definitely not hitting. It's not going up that far to hit. So I'm just going to leave it on there. Don't have to worry about extra holes. I'm not sure, you know, if you start taking out bolts, whether it's going to start rusting or what. So I'll leave that on there because again, it's not hitting anything. So it's just mostly there for show. All right, then again, once these go on, like I said, obviously these bolt up here like that with the spacer and the plate on, but it'll go up here like this. Some of them, you can actually get different kinds. You can hook it to the U-bolt here. So this would actually become on the bottom, depending on your vehicle. So that's how it would go. I kind of like this way because technically when you mess around with these U-bolts, when you loosen them and retorque them, you're supposed to get new U-bolts. Not everybody does it. I would say most people probably don't do it. But again, if you have to take this off, technically you're messing with the U-bolts. You don't want to do that if you don't have to. But lucky for us, with the Frontier, the bump stops are up top, so it'll be easy to do. All right, so now I'm going to try to do this with one hand filming. Basically, put the bolt in here, because what a lot of people have trouble with is you got that washer in there. So you got to line the washer up, and of course this is very deep in here. So you have to line it up, get the bolt in, get it through the hole, flip it over, and put the plates on. So if I can do this with one hand, you guys should be able to do it with two. What I recommend, lean this over, nice and gentle. You can see I went too hard, your washer flips over. So what you do, get this in here, kind of just drop it in. When you have the bolt on an angle like that, you almost have to go straight up and down before it's going to fall out. So put it in, little trick, it's not super hard to do. Between this not falling out and only tipping this partially over, now the head of the bolt is on the bottom, you see? So then you can just kind of wiggle it around. Of course, like I said, this is way more difficult with one hand because this thing wants to roll. But basically, just find the hole like such. Now, hold it like that so the ratchet is holding it in. Drop your two plates on top, the cone first and then the flat plate on top. Put a little blue thread blocker on there, and then we'll screw it into the truck. So again, holding it like that, you can see you got your cone, you got your flat plate. Then your bolt thread locker came out like a madman. I got way too much on there. But then all you got to do, come up here, find the hole. Now I'm not going to be able to do this with one hand, but line it up with your hole right there and it'll thread in just the same as you took it off. So just like that, you've got it started, and then all that's left is just keep on cranking until it goes tight. The threads are very small, I find, in here, so you would think it's taking a lot more to get it up than you would think, but just keep on cranking it. You can see it'll go. As you go, it's going to stop spinning because it's getting a little bit of friction. And then again, you don't need to crazily tighten these things. The thread locker will hold it. So get it tight, just like that. And then go over here and just give it kind of one good oomph, just like that. And one crank, she's on there. Get that out of the way. Everything's nice and solid. And just like that, your bump stops are in. So there you have it, guys. Install is done. Like I said, this is pretty much as easy as it comes. It's literally just 2 bolts. You loosen these off, pop them off, get the new one put together like Timbren shows us, and tighten them back up. You can't get much easier than that. Again, you don't have to jack up the truck and take the wheel off like I did. That was just so you guys could see filming wise a little better in the video what you're doing. I actually did the passenger side on the ground just like the truck sits now, so you don't have to worry about doing that. And again, a 13 wrench or socket, and a ratchet is all you need, and a little extension. If you have a long extension, it won't work because you're going to run into your leaf before you can get it in there to loosen the bolt off. So it's as simple as just loosening it off and putting it back on. And again, Timbren makes a bunch of different versions of these, so it doesn't only work for the Frontier. They make them almost for every vehicle. So hit them up. They'll send you in the right direction. If you are wanting ones for the Frontier specifically, I will drop a link down below, so you can click that, go and pick one up for yourself. And again, big shout out to Timbren. Thanks for sending them out. We can test them out on the truck next time we hit the trails. And for you guys that are watching, thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. We're getting close to 10,000, so hopefully we can get there by the end of the year. So share, let your friends know, subscribe, and hopefully we catch you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching, everybody.